Good morning, or rather good afternoon. It is now 12:59 p.m. on Saturday, July 29th, 2017. I'm Christiana Ellis, and I'm recording this for the second time today because I apparently put it up without sound before. The original video had no sound, so this is a second recording, evidenced by the fact that I am talking about it. Anyway, so that's annoying. Thank you, though, to a rapid fire commenter who let me know that there was no sound. I appreciate that. Even though, I am annoyed to hear it because it is me that did something wrong, but I appreciate being told. Anyway, yeah, so, what I talked about in the other video that had no sound was first that I slept in until afternoon, because I needed to, and it felt good. And I always feel like I lose half the day, because I literally do. But is it really lost if it's used to do something that will make you feel better? And in this case, recovering on sleep deprivation is something that definitely makes me feel better. And so, was the time really wasted? I say nay. I say thee nay! The other thing I talked about is that I recently this week finished listening to the audiobook of Good Omens by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. Now, this is a book that I think a lot of people in geek circles are already aware of. It's certainly not new, but it is by, Neil Gaiman, of course, writes a lot of sort of dark fantasy, creepy sorts of fantasy. He's really good, by the way. Things like Sandman, but then also American Gods. The recent TV show is based on his book, and he has a new one out called Norse Mythology. And he's written lots of great stuff. And then Terry Pratchett, of course, is most famous for the Discworld series, which is also amazing. And so this was a book that was certainly, I was aware of it and aware of both authors at the time for a long time. And I think I even started to read it once and never quite got all the way through. But it was a book I was definitely aware of. And in particular, when I used to compete in speech and debate back in high school and college, my event of choice was interpretation of humorous literature, where you take a selection from a piece of comedic writing and perform it. And I had seen people do pieces of this. And so I think it was partly the fact that I was aware of it and kind of so aware of little bits of it that kind of lessened the urgency to read it myself, and I just never got around to it until recently I picked up the audiobook, which I recommend. Certainly if you are not already, if you, like me, had just never gotten around to it, or even better, if you were never even aware that it existed, congratulations, I get to tell you about a cool book. And then the audiobook is a good presentation of it, I think. If you're not aware of it at all, the story is sort of a comedic take on the Christian apocalypse, with the Antichrist and demons and angels and the four horsemen of the apocalypse and so on, but all spun through kind of a British parody sort of mindset. And I think it actually does extremely well at walking a very narrow path where it's very funny, and yet I think, although I'm sure there are people who exist that were offended by it, I think you'd kind of have to go out of your way, because I think it's ultimately fairly respectful of people's beliefs, even when it's poking fun. And it's very thoughtful about its comedy. It's not just like, oh, religious people are stupid. No, it's not like that. It's very funny, and it plays with a lot of interesting ideas. If you remember the Kevin Smith movie Dogma, I would say it's not really very much like that. Or rather, I don't know, it's got a different sense of humor than that, but otherwise, the idea that it's a comedic take on the end of the world, I suppose it's similar in that respect. But it's not full of, like, gross out jokes and stuff like that. It's very good, and I really liked the audiobook of it as well. It had lots of interesting voice choices for the different characters that I appreciated. And one that really stood out, for example, is War, one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse, is presented as this beautiful red-haired woman who people just start fighting around her. And I was not trying to make a connection of the red hair there, but in the audiobook, she speaks in kind of this weird nasal growl, which I just thought was an interesting choice and yet kind of cool. Anyway, I recommend the audiobook. Thumbs up. Hopefully this one has sound, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Excuse me. For 5 more minutes. Tomorrow, Sunday, of course, it is Avatar: The Last Airbender rewatch. And then that's it. All right. Bye now.